once you're at that point of being an advanced dancer, you just have to know how to work hard, know how to persevere. Just keeping a positive attitude is a huge deal because it's really easy to be negative. And I actually think that that's super unattractive. And most people will agree.
Welcome to the Job Dictionary podcast. Today, I will be interviewing Hannah Christian, who is going to be talking to us a bit about what it was like to be a professional ballerina at Boston Ballet. Now she's doing really amazing things with her own startup, her own company, and she's going to share with us just a bit of everything. I'm so excited to have you with us today. Welcome. So we're going to start off, with 3 quick questions that we ask every single guest. So in your own words, could you tell me, what do you do? Where do you live? And when you were a kid, what did you want to do when you grew up?
Okay, so what do I do? So I am a professional ballerina. So I danced for Boston Ballet as well as Ballet Arizona and trained at the Royal Ballet School. I currently live in Austin, Texas. And what I wanted to be when I grew up, I actually wanted to be a veterinarian. And then around 12, 13, decided I wanted to be a dancer. And so, yeah.
Awesome. Okay. And how long have you actually been working in this field? Or how long were you a professional ballerina?
Yes. So technically, I've been pursuing becoming a professional ballerina from the age of, I would say, 12.
Awesome.
And then went to a boarding school from 16 to 18 to pursue that. And then starting at 18, I got my first job with Boston Ballet. I'm
Awesome.
28 currently. I did 5 years with Boston Ballet. I stepped away from that for a while, pursued real estate, got into Pilates, got my certification in that, did a few other things, actually jumped back into professional dance world. Did another year with Ballet Arizona, and then decided that I wanted to start my own company. So that's where I'm at now. So I'm still technically within the field, but have kind of navigated and explored different areas in it.
No, that's awesome. It's very interesting too. And like training does begin very early on. So yeah. Okay, could you tell me what made you want to get into this career path? I know you're a dancer, so as a fellow dancer, I
Yes.
know like you started dancing, but how did
Yeah.
you get your start? What made you?
I think whenever I was young, so I did love it, but I wouldn't say that I really fell in love with it until I became older. For me, I was very naturally gifted at dance and ballet. And I think that I started competing when I was young as well. And so um, the performance aspect of it was definitely a driving force for my desire to pursue it. So I loved being on stage. I loved performing. And I didn't necessarily connect with the art of it until I was an adult. So it's kind of an interesting thing. So I think that's why I've come into it and out of it so many times. But now I would say the reason I still pursue it is because I love it and I like to move. I enjoy the freedom that comes with actually being trained and knowing how to do something right. I really truly believe in that saying, through discipline, you find freedom. So I think that through being disciplined for this specific art form has allowed me now to be free in the movement. And that is something I've enjoyed as an adult.
Sorry, I apologize for that. I have my computer on Do Not Disturb and it is
Oh, you're good.
working at the moment, so I'm trying to figure that out. I'm sorry for interrupting you. Okay, so I agree with that so much. Like, I feel like one of the biggest teachings of the dance world in general is just discipline. And like, I think that is something every dancer has in common. And it makes such a difference because I feel like any field we go into, whether it's in dance or outside of it, it is kind of like a differentiating factor that we do bring with each other. So,
Totally.
yeah. Okay, so I love hearing that story. And now could you share? You mentioned a little bit that you went to boarding school. I'm curious to know if
Yes.
that had to do with your dance education. So could you tell me maybe some, like if you got a specific degree or a certification, or maybe just that story of where you went to school that are required to, get into these prestigious ballet companies?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started dance when I was 8 years old. By the time I was 11, I became homeschooled. So my parents pulled me out of school so that I could dance and do what we call a day program. So you go and train all day, and then you do school in the evenings instead. So I was homeschooled from the time I was 11 until 14. I had started competing internationally. So I competed in Beijing, I competed in South Africa, and Lausanne, Switzerland. And in Lausanne, I actually won a competition there. I won the silver medal as well as the Audience Choice Award, which then allowed me to choose any school in the world that I wanted to train at. So I chose the Royal Ballet School in England, and that was the boarding school that I ended up going to when I was 16. Went there for 2 years. After 2 years, I got offered a professional contract with Boston Ballet, which is then I transferred into the professional world. So I didn't necessarily get a degree per se, but for what I was pursuing, a degree isn't necessary. It's more experience that's necessary. So because by the time I was 18, I had all this experience and medals and accolades in the profession, I was able to actually just jump straight into a company environment.
Yeah. And I'm curious. So specifically, you went into the professional ballerina type of company, right? How
Yeah.
different would you say it is, for a company that is a ballet and professional dancers in totally different areas, like the education they need to get compared to perhaps
Yes.
you got. So yeah.
Yeah, so I always divide up these categories into commercial dance and classical dance. That it's just easier for me to say that. So I would say for a commercial dancer, it's more common to go to college for dance and then to get like projects. Like that's the type of work that you do. You're always doing projects. So you're doing 1 to 3 month long projects, and you're constantly moving or jumping around and doing different things. Within classical dance or classical ballet, in my case, it is a year-round company. You're employed 40 weeks. You get 401k, you get a W-2. You're a full-time employee with benefits and all of that. And you're performing year-round in one location, in one place. So for what I've decided to pursue, it's a little more steady, which with other dancers, it's a little, can be just as rewarding, but it's definitely, I would say, way more risky. And I don't know, competitive wise, I think both industries are just as competitive.
Yeah.
So I think it just depends on the type of dance you love and you want to pursue. But I don't know if that answers the question a little bit.
Oh yeah, it for sure does.
Okay.
I appreciate it. Okay, and now could you share maybe like what was a day in the life like when you were in Boston Ballet?
Yes. Yeah, so whenever I danced with Boston Ballet or Ballet Arizona, a day in the life would just be class would start around 9. We would have an hour and 15 to an hour and a half class, and then maybe a 15-minute break, and then we would go into rehearsals for a 6-hour day. So we would rehearse all of the different ballets upcoming. In Boston, we did a lot more performances. So we were constantly learning new choreography to then be performed within the next month or so. So it was a very rigorous schedule. There were some work weeks where we were working 6 days a week. So it was very intense. So if you can imagine that, you'd start at 9 a.m., you'd finish around 6:30 p.m., and you're there 6 days a week. So there were some weeks where it was only 5, but sometimes there were 6. And then even at Ballet Arizona, there were 5-day work weeks, and then we would sometimes have 7-day work weeks. So it was pretty intense.
Okay, so would you say then that it's not very flexible, really, right? I mean, the practices you have to be there, the classes you have to be there.
Yeah. If you don't show up, you'll either get fired or they'll remove you from the shows. And most dancers like performing. I would say most people dance because they love to be on stage.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, awesome. And okay, would you say at any point, I'm just curious, like dancing professionally in this way, is there a lot that you did outside of the time that you were in practice or that you were learning? Like, do you find that you took work home? I know that's totally different from like a corporate environment, but just curious how you felt.
Absolutely. I don't think you can be a ballet dancer and not take work home. I don't think it's possible because what ballet is a lifestyle. Do I think that that's always healthy? Not necessarily. But do I think that that's a reality? Absolutely. But I've learned through also taking time away and pursuing other interests that to be excellent at anything, you have to take it home with you. You otherwise, if you leave it, most of the time, what you do is going to be mediocre. And maybe that's intense to say, but it's true. So if you want to be excellent in anything, you have to take it home with you and you have to care about it all the time. Otherwise you are, mediocrity isn't bad, but it's what you'll become.
End up being, and in dance, that is not that the industry
in dance it can't happen.
For
it just
sure
can't happen in dance. So.
Great. Okay, so I'm curious, could you share with me like specifically with training, that's a lot on your body. What are things that you did on the day to day, whether that was, I don't know, specific training or maybe specific tools or, equipment or, you know what I'm saying, that would help
Definitely.
you on the day to day?
Yes. So yes, I will definitely answer this. So when I was younger, I just danced and then ended up injured a lot actually while I was at Boston during my time there. And then as I got older and wiser, I started implementing, like I would do Pilates and work on the reformer. I would see different massage therapists. You work with physical therapists as well. You do a lot of conditioning. Now, personally, I go to the gym and I lift weights and I also run to do some more cardio things. Sometimes I swim. So there's a lot of different things that I do, especially as I'm getting older as a dancer, that I have to do. Because I also tend to be, I think I would say, lower muscle tone. So to be stronger, I actually have to do more. So
Right.
that's something that I have just learned about myself as I've gotten older. So I don't know if that answers everything I do, but I do a lot in addition to just dancing now to prevent injury, just because
Yeah.
I have been so injured before.
Yeah. No, and it's very important. It's very demanding on the body, like so many
Yeah,
hours. And with dance, you use such different muscles than just going to the
totally.
gym. And I always say that to people. I'm like, I could go to the gym any day, but I'm gonna come home and I will never feel the same sore that I
Yeah,
felt, dancing 20-hour weeks when I used to compete. So it's like,
totally.
yeah, taking care of yourself is very important. Okay,
And yeah.
so I know dance, like as a dancer, like we love to dance, it's a passion, but what is it that you love the most about being a professional ballerina? What was the most exciting or interesting?
I think there's a few things that I really love about it. And one of them is how it's kind of intercultural. So it's like anywhere you go, any culture, that it's all the same language that it's all in French. And so we all understand the terminology, no matter if you're Japanese, Chinese, a European of some kind, American, no, South American. If you do ballet, ballet is ballet is ballet is ballet. So I think that that's something that's really cool, that anywhere I go, I can take a ballet class and we can communicate through this very specific language that not a lot of people know.
Yeah.
There's another thing that I love about dance specifically is that ability to be able to perform something at a really high level and something really difficult. And there's that moment after you accomplish it that you have that sense of, I overcame something really difficult and I persevered to the end and I saw it all the way through. And there's something deeply satisfying about that. And I think that in any career that is difficult, I think people can understand that feeling. And
Right.
there's something very rewarding about that. And then lastly, I do think, I mean, I am a Christian, and so I do believe that this art, like our art, is worship. And so there's something really spiritual and beautiful about dancing, and especially for God specifically, to use the gift that you've been given fully, I think is something that's really special. That you can't use words to describe that feeling. So I think that there's something really spectacular about that. And that's what I love about ballet and dance.
I got you. No, I understand that 100%. Okay. And that's the part you love. And with dance, there's a lot of things, obviously, like on your body, just in the culture of the industry as a whole as well. What would you say was the most emotionally challenging or, hard of the job on the day to day?
Absolutely. So the hardest thing, which is actually why I've left and come back and left and come back, and then now I'm starting my own thing entirely, is because I absolutely hate ballet culture. I will be totally frank with you. I do not like the culture. I don't like the over competitiveness of it. I don't believe that that glorifies anyone, not even yourself. I think it's just an ugly thing.
Yeah.
And then also all of the body dysmorphia, body image issues, and things like that that come out of it. And I think that it's already a career that tends itself toward body image issues, just because we are staring at ourselves in a mirror for so many hours a day. That then to have people reinforcing these ugly things can be super damaging. So that part of it I have a big issue with, and just the amount of beautiful dancers that I personally know, and including myself, that have been destroyed emotionally and their self-esteem completely deteriorated because of people at the front of the room who have these same issues. And so they're just regurgitating the things that they think are right because of what they learned when they were young. It's heartbreaking, and it makes me really angry. It's something that I have a lot to say about, and if we
No,
had more time, I would go into
I could
more,
talk
but that's
about this.
something, yeah, it's really infuriating for me. And to hear some of those, like these stories of my friends, oh, it makes me so mad. I'm like, I hate the industry for that. I'm like,
That
these beautiful people don't get to use their gifts the way that they were designed to because, it's these
it's
people
this
have made them feel a
toxic,
certain way about
yeah,
themselves.
it's a
It's
toxic seniority system that very much
absolutely,
holds on to what they went through, and it's a perspective
yes,
that says because I went through it, you will go through it as well, and there's
yes,
no progress in that, and it's
no, no,
but hopefully, I feel like I've met so many dancers that are saying exactly what you're saying right now,
yeah,
and I
yep,
hope, dream that that is making a difference in the coming years for the future generations because dance is
yes,
beautiful and we all love it. So, you know.
yeah, no,
Um,
totally.
okay, so I've I'm curious. Obviously, there's the Nutcracker, but what was the busiest season when you were a professional ballerina, when you were at any of these companies? Or
Yeah.
do you find that it was kind of consistent? What was it like?
Um, so Boston Ballet specifically, we would do 50 Nutcrackers, and then after we would do 50 shows of Nutcracker in a 6-week span, we would go into our spring, or I think they now call it a winter season.
Okay.
But basically from January to May, they would do 3 to 4 different productions. And in each production, there's about 3 acts. So I mean, it was insane the amount of shows they would shove into that 5-month period. And I remember that was always about when I would get injured. And a lot of dancers would get injured just because it was just pure overuse. So that was always the busiest season. Whenever I was at Ballet Arizona, it was a little bit lighter than that just because they didn't do as many performances and the company's a little bit smaller. So the rehearsal spans were actually longer. And then there was only one weekend of shows instead of 2 to 3 weekends.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so it was quite a bit different. And I would say that so it was more evenly spaced out. And then after each production, you got a week off, which in Boston, that was not the case.
Yeah.
You did not get a week off after each show, after each production. It was like, okay, that production's done, into the next.
Okay. Would you say the culture was different from going from like a very, large company to like a smaller size as you're sharing?
Definitely. I would say definitely. I think every ballet company has its, pros and cons, especially secular ones. I think there's more cons. That said, though, I do believe that the smaller company of Ballet Arizona was healthier all around than Boston, just because of the, the rigorousness, if that's a word,
Right.
of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And so right off of that, what would you say people really underestimate about wanting to go into the professional ballerina, like big
I
role,
think,
it's not easy to get to.
yeah, I think they underestimate the actual amount of time it requires to become an artist.
Okay.
So I don't know, at least for me, I had this preconceived idea that once I joined a company, I had made it and I was going to be, a principal dancer in a few years and I was going to be this and that. And it was all going to be grand and easy because my hard work was the school, hard work was training. And then once I got into a company, I realized, oh no, everyone here is talented now. There's not a single person in the room who's not talented. And the only thing that makes us different is who's willing to work the hardest. And I think that was something that I learned over time. And then also now being 28 and still being on this journey of dance and learning how to use different things and becoming an artist, I believe, you know, that I'm always going to be that even in 10 more years, 15 more years, even when I'm in my early 40s, I'll still be learning how to use my body and dance. And that was something that at 18, I didn't think I would have to do. I thought I would just know how to do it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, it
So I
makes
think that's kind of, I think people have unrealistic expectations going into a career in ballet. It is definitely a journey. There's no destination at all for this.
okay. Okay. And so
Yeah.
on the opposite end of the spectrum, what do you think people overestimate?
They okay, overestimate. Um, that was a harder one, I think.
So let's say like overhyped
Mm,
negative assumptions or thinking the job
yeah.
is harder slash easier than it is. Actually, I would say harder, but
Yeah, that's why I'm like, I don't know about overestimating.
right.
Yeah, I would say, at least with dance, I would say the majority of the time people underestimate.
Yeah.
And then maybe an overestimate the amount they'll actually be dancing. I would say some dancers join companies and they expect to be used and dance the 8 hours a day, and they're excited about that. And then they get into a company and they're sometimes only in one rehearsal, or they're not cast at all. And so I think that maybe that's something that some dancers don't realize, is that like, oh, in the first few years, like you actually have to push yourself. No one else is going to be pushing you, because you might not even actually be valuable, which is unfortunate.
Right.
Because it's not true, but it's how you feel.
Yeah. No, it makes complete sense. And okay, here's a more loaded question. This is obviously not an easy career path. It's very much, the best of the best dancers get to be part of these incredible companies. But how can someone actually get there? Like, what does someone who wants to get there, quote unquote, as fast as possible,
Yeah.
do to get their foot in the door? We both know, like, it's not like a today I decided that tomorrow I'm going
Yeah.
to be, but
Yeah.
they're a
It
little,
takes years.
yeah,
So I guess, yeah, it takes years and years to cultivate a good dancer. I mean, I would say, if you've overcome the physical attributes of it, like you've learned how to do the technique side of it, you know what things are, steps, your vocabulary, you can dance, you're an advanced dancer. Once you're at that point of being an advanced dancer, I mean, you just have to know how to work hard, know how to persevere, and just continue to push. That's really, I think, because once you do get to a certain level as an advanced dancer, the only thing that differentiates you from another advanced dancer is your ability to work hard. And also, I would say personality is a big part of it. Even ballet masters and ballet staff and stagers that I've worked with, they want to work with people who are positive in the studio, and they want to work with people who are happy to be there. They want to, you want to be likable, because people want to
right.
work with likable people.
Yes.
So I think that that's a big part too, is just keeping a positive attitude is a huge deal, because it's really easy to be negative. And I actually think that that's super unattractive, and most people will agree.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
agree 100%. And okay, most people then who come into this field do have a really strong background in dance, right?
Yeah.
Would you say that there's a common like age at which peers that you had worked with started dancing?
Yes, I would say most people started taking it seriously, either for women, this is for women specifically, I would say
Right.
around 12 is when you know if you're going to
Okay.
pursue it or not. And if you have a chance to pursue it professionally, you'll know around 12 years old. For men, I have some male friends who didn't start until they were 16, got
Wow.
trained, and now they dance for amazing companies around the world. So men can get into it a little bit later, but I think it's for women, there's a level of flexibility that has to be there. There's a level of
Right.
softness that has to be produced. With men, not that I mean, obviously you have to have grace and all that too as a man, but there's a little bit more of the partnering side of it, that if you're strong and you're tall, you can almost navigate the dance by being a good partner.
Right.
And if
Yeah.
you're a good partner and you can dance with the woman well, then you can almost get away with not being as technically sound. Whereas for the woman, there's no way around it.
Right.
There's just no way around being technically sound. Like you
Like,
have to be graceful, you have to be beautiful, you have to be soft, you have to be these things, because that's, what is expected of the ballerina.
yeah, reach towards perfection.
Yeah,
Even though
exactly.
nobody is perfect.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I would say, yeah, women usually it's around 12 that they start pursuing it seriously. I would say starting for real before that. I mean, some people start at 3, some at 8. I started dancing when I was 8, or 7, 8. But just pursue it seriously would be 12.
Yeah. Would you say that there's something that if you're more naturally good at or more skilled in, you're more likely to get to the point where you can dance professionally as a ballerina?
I would say yes. I mean, even now as I'm teaching, you can see the dancers that are gifted. I mean, I teach a group of like 5-year-olds, and you can see the ones that are going to be little principal dancers, even at 5. And it has to do with like the way that they carry themselves,
Yeah.
and then and their ability to listen. And it
Mhm.
also has to do with the way that they move their legs. I mean, for example, for people who might be listening to this who don't know ballet, like there's a certain level of external rotation in the hips that you need. There's a certain
Right.
level of flexibility that you need. There's like a specific leg shape, like for your feet, you want bendy feet. For ballet specifically, you kind of have to have bendy feet because you're up on your toes.
Yeah.
So without that, there's a lot that you really have to be naturally gifted at. I had a friend of mine tell me that she believes that anyone who's a ballet dancer is anointed to be a ballet dancer because there is a lot of physical attributes that go with that are just required to do it, that you literally cannot do it unless you have. So there is a lot about it that is God-given.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Now,
Yeah.
I'm curious. This is a question that I'm trying to figure out how to translate it in the terms of ballet, but is there like a promotion type of situation in the companies? Like, is everyone at the
Yes.
same level, but then when you get casted, it's kind of like a promotion? How does that work?
Yeah, so there is a hierarchy. Not all companies are ranked. Some companies don't do that, but most companies will be ranked. So
Okay.
there is corps de ballet, which is the entry level. And
Okay.
then you have soloist, which you get to do solo parts and you get to do those different things. Within certain companies, there's second soloist, first soloist. I think there's some companies will say like junior soloist. There's
Okay.
different levels of soloist.
Yeah.
And then there's principal dancer. So which means you are the lead dancer in the company. And that means that you are paid as such. You've been there for many years. You are an experienced dancer.
Okay.
So at Boston Ballet, I was a second soloist. So I was in that soloist category whenever I
Right.
was there. And I got to do a lot of principal roles. So they were looking at me probably to be promoted, but I stopped when I was 22
Gotcha.
there. So, and then whenever I went to Ballet Arizona, they were unranked, and I did get to dance a few different principal roles, and I got to dance, quarter ballet as well, and all different things while I was there. But it's an unranked company, so, and in a way, it's more equal, I would say,
Yeah.
which is cool.
Could you show me then which of those was the highest rank specifically?
Principal dancer would be the
Okay.
highest ranking. Yeah, principal dancer. And then if you have there's one really famous company called Paris Opera Ballet in Paris, and they say étoile. So, and that means star, quite literally. It
Oh,
just means
wow.
star.
That's nice.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
And so please share this with as much of a range as you would like, because it's definitely a more personal question. But how do the salaries range between these levels? And what can you expect to make maybe as a, entry level professional ballerina?
Yes. So it definitely depends on the company that you work for. So for me personally, I went to school with the Royal Ballet School, which is one of the best companies internationally. And then I went to Boston Ballet, which is a major company. So my starting salary for Boston Ballet was, if I remember correctly, was around 45,000 when I was 18. And
Okay.
then when I became a soloist, it was about 70,000. And
Okay.
then I believe their principal dancers, this could be wrong, but I believe they do make six figures, or it's close to six figures. And then I do know that then whenever you get into the administrative roles, like the artistic director and the executive director, they make 2, 3, 400, some companies $500,000 a year. So in big companies, there is money to be made. It's not, I'm a poor artist in that, which is also why I think that there is more job security within ballet than in the
Right.
commercial space.
Okay.
So that's what I will say about ballet is that you're not a poor artist always, but of course there are some companies that you join and you get paid dirt. You have to have 2, 3, 4 jobs, and there's they're just not as known. I know that in Ballet Arizona there were quite a few dancers who had second jobs, so it wasn't uncommon to have that. But it's also a smaller company, so their budget's smaller. Their dancers, you are full time, but it doesn't hurt to have supplemental income.
Yeah.
So it really is dependent upon the company that you work for. I
Okay.
would say the majority of companies is low paying, but if you are in, I would say like top 10 companies in the nation, absolutely you're getting paid your worth, and
Okay.
you're making good money.
That's good. And while we're on that, I feel like this is an important question. How old, like how many years can you
Yeah.
actually work as a professional ballerina? Is there any
Yes.
cap to that age limit?
So I would say previously, women specifically would only work until they're like mid to late 30s, just because they would start having children and different things like that. Men would retire in their early 40s. So that was kind of, I think, more common. But now with like recent advancements in medicine and physical therapy and in the fitness industry overall, I mean, I'm seeing there are ballerinas out there that have had multiple children. Like there's this one woman in Germany that I'm obsessed with, Iona Salenko. She has had 3 children. She is 42 years old, and that woman is still phenomenal. She is still getting up on that stage doing full length ballets and like looks amazing. And I'm like, all right. So there's I think that we're going to see dancers over the next 10 years getting older and older. And then there's like Marianela Nunez at Royal Ballet, who I think she's like 42 or 43 now. That woman looks like she's maybe 30, and she doesn't look too old on stage either. So before, I think people were aging out, and then now I'm like, these dancers aren't aging at all. So
Right.
I'm like, I don't know what's in the water, or if it is just the advancement in medicine or what's going on, but definitely I'm seeing dancers getting older and older and looking younger and younger, which is very cool to see.
Yeah. No, that's really awesome. And so, okay, I'm excited to ask you this question because I know right now you have left, the company era of your life, but now you are starting your own thing. So could you share
Yes.
what people who once danced professionally as a ballerina tend to go into next if they leave their company? And could you tell us about what you're doing? I feel like.
Yes, absolutely. So I think, like every person, people have a diverse range of interests. So a lot of different dancers pursue different things. For me personally, when I left the first time, I got I got my Pilates certification, which I think that is very common for dancers to pursue, because I think being a dancer, you admire the anatomy and such. So you want to learn how to, use it. So that's something that I got first. And then I got into real estate. My husband is a developer and lender. So I went into real estate world, got my agent license, and then I started helping managing B&Bs and doing all kinds of different things and working on different investment projects, which then got me into the business sphere, and turning me into a little bit of a business person. And then from there, I got back into dance, and then kind of now I'm combining the two. So another woman that I work with closely, who's my business partner, I now co-own with her Redeeming Dance, which is a studio in Austin. We've got about 35 students so far, and it's basically to both of us have similar stories and similar ideas about the dance culture in the world and things that we believe that God does want to renew and take back for his kingdom, because ultimately I think it's his gift and the world has twisted it into something that it isn't supposed to be. And I think there's a lot of dancers that need healing. And I think that through worship and through dance and music, there is a lot of healing to be had. So that's something that we're building right now, is that studio space. And then we're actually both about to officially launch Yeshua Ballet Theatre, which it will be a professional company for dancers who are 18 plus, who want to use their gift to glorify God in excellence. So we do want to produce a company of excellence that can actually rival these big secular companies that I've danced for and that she also has danced for. To bring glory back to God instead of to ourselves, because ultimately, I mean, I think that's the biggest difference, is that in a secular company a lot of people are there for themselves, and what we want to do is we actually want to say, actually, the creator of the universe gets the glory for this gift specifically. Like, it has nothing to do with me. Maybe I made some choices to cultivate the gift, but really ultimately it's not mine.
Right.
So that is
It's
what
a
we are
different
working on
purpose.
now. Yes, exactly. So for Redeeming Dance, I am the co-owner of that, and then I am for Yeshua Ballet Theatre. I'll be a principal dancer with that company, and then also the executive director there. So I'll be over all things business, administrative, leading the fundraising teams, all that good stuff, and doing all the businessy stuff. And then my business partner will be the artistic director as well as the principal dancer there as well.
Awesome.
So we've got some big things coming up. So that's kind of what we have both used our past with ballet to pursue something again in ballet.
Right.
But a lot of dancers I know move into a whole different field and use the lessons that they've learned through dance in their new field, which is also, I think, just as powerful, because there's so many things you learn as a dancer, and I'm sure you can speak to that transfer over and into other fields, because dance cultivates character in a person. So if you're a strong character, you can pretty much pursue anything.
Agreed. No, I love to hear that. I say that all the time. Like, I feel like if I was not a dancer, I would not be the way that I am today. So,
Yeah.
agreed. Okay. So, we are reaching close to the end of the interview. So, I wanted to ask, what are ways, like resources? I know you talked about the Royal Ballet. I actually did, I want to say like 2 years of that when I was younger. So, I know there's
Yeah.
like, it's a whole system. What would you recommend for someone that's wanting to get like into this profession, someone who wants to make it as a professional ballerina? Like, what should they pursue?
Yeah. Come train with me at Redeeming Dance. No, I'm just kidding. But
Shameless plug.
honestly, yeah, I know. There's the plug. No, but for real, look for instructors and teachers that are experienced in the industry so that they can help you in a very honest way navigate what to do to pursue it professionally. I
Right.
think it's really important to find mentors and people around you that actually know what the industry is so that you can then glean from their wisdom. So I think that that's super important for people who want to pursue it. And then also just making sure, I mean, there's a certain level of excellence required to pursue ballet professionally, that you have to find excellent people to teach that skill to you. There's a lot of really bad dance studios that exist and
Unfortunately.
very low quality, unfortunately. Good-hearted people for sure, but that they won't cultivate. If you're wanting to do it professionally, you can't have that standard, if that makes sense.
Right.
You have to go somewhere that has a higher standard.
Yeah.
And it's not a bad thing to be the worst dancer in the room. You actually want to be in a place where you're the worst dancer in the room, because then that means, oh, I need to grow and I need to be pushed and I need to be these things.
Yeah.
So I would say don't be discouraged to pursue top-notch places. Find mentors and people who want to push you. Overcome your own mental blocks, because I think a lot of dance is exactly that. It is a mental game as well. And you have to overcome a lot of your own insecurities and a lot of your own issues. I mean, it's really like, that war within yourself. And I think dance exposes that a lot. So I think doing a lot of self-work and then also pursuing people who can guide you accordingly. I think those are like the two main bits of, I guess, wisdom that I have for people trying to pursue it.
Awesome. And lastly, could you tell me a piece of advice that you would have given your younger self at the beginning of your career?
Oh gosh, the advice I would have given myself. Let's see. Focus more on the journey and actually try to enjoy the patience required to pursue it. I'm a very like want to go quick, move, go,
Yeah.
go. Like that's just a lot of who I am. And I think this career specifically is not that at all.
Okay.
And so I think now as I've gotten older, I've learned to enjoy that a little bit more. But I think as a younger person, I wish someone had come to me and told me, hey, you need to slow down.
Yeah.
And it's going to be really slow. Just expect it to be slow. So I think that that's what I would get. I would think that's the advice I would have given myself, is it's going to be slow, way slower than you think. You can't even fathom how slow it's going to be.
So
But it's like for your benefit. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's for your benefit.
It's for your own good. No. Okay. So Hannah, where can people reach out to you or follow along with the work that you're doing in Austin?
Definitely. So you can follow me or find me at the Hannah Christian on Instagram. I also have Redeeming Dance on Instagram and then Yeshua Ballet Theatre on Instagram as well. So all three of those are great places to find me. We're officially launching Yeshua Ballet Theatre in the next week or so. Yeah. And then Redeeming Dance has been around for a little while. So we have some posts and think good stuff. But
that is awesome. Well, great. Thank you so much, Hannah, for joining me today. This was such a fun interview. I always love talking to a fellow dancer, and your story is, I mean, like, you're a pro. So I love it. So thank you so much for joining me today. Appreciate it.
I had so much fun. Thank you for having me.
You just got one episode closer to learning about the world of jobs out there. To explore the rest of our career categories and find your best fit, go to jobdictionary.com to sign up for the beta users waitlist. Then subscribe here to find the next episodes coming out this week. And as always, drop us a comment, review, or message to let us know how we could better attune our episodes to your specific needs. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, X, Threads, Pinterest, and wherever else you're on socials to go get our short, snappy preview reels that expose you to new job options every day. Because here at Job Dictionary, we believe your big aha moment can be just one scroll away. Go check it out and get out there. Cheers!